Lesson 2.1, Segment Bisectors. Start this lesson with an activity. Follow these directions. Take a piece of paper and put 2 points on it. I would pause the recording, give it a try. If you do this right and you fold this over so it lands on there, you should end up with a line that goes right down the middle. And it's a line of folded paper. This point in the middle, often labeled M, is a midpoint. And we call it the midpoint because it breaks up AB here into 2 equal segments, 2 congruent segments. And that's what this says. The midpoint of a segment is the point on a segment. So for example, that would not be the midpoint because AB is not a segment. AB has to be a straight segment, not a bent one. So midpoint on a segment breaks it into 2 congruent segments. And remember, congruent is just equals for shapes. And a segment is a shape, not a number. A segment bisector is a ray, line, or plane. Let's make it a plane for a change. It cuts this segment. Call it F, E, and hits at M. It's plane X. We would say, assuming that these two are congruent, and that's what these little signs mean. They mean congruent. And again, congruent is just equals for shapes. It just means the two segments have the same length. So we would say plane X bisects, breaks in half, bisects, cuts in half, segment EF. We don't have to write segment, we just do this. This gives us lots of problems with math to work on. So we have AB, we have M, and we know this distance is 25. That's what this means. AB is 25. So if that's 25, then AM, which is half the distance, equals 25 over 2, also known as 12.5. MB also equals 25 over 2, 12.5. And we don't need to do the math twice. We know that if it's a bisector, both pieces are going to be equal in length. And that'll come in very useful shortly. P is the midpoint of RS. P, R, S. And it's a skill to know how to draw these, so make sure you understand how I did that. P is the midpoint, RS is the segment. RP equals 7. What's PS and what's RS? Well, like I just said, PS has to be the same, so it's also 7. 7 plus 7 is 14, so RS equals 14. Remember, I am saying PS here, and that means the distance from P to S. This means the segment P to S. So make sure we understand those differences. That's the distance from P to S. And if we were to say this means the segment PS. This is the shape. This is the number. So, more examples. If L is a segment bisector of GH, what I like to do is say, oh, that means this piece and this piece are congruent. So put our little tick marks in. Find the value of x. Well, these two pieces are congruent. We can write 5x is equal to 35. Take a second to solve that. You should pause the recording. Hopefully it didn't take you too long. We can check. 5 times 7 is 35. They're both 35. Now, so far midpoint's been on a number line. That makes it pretty easy. You can also find them on a coordinate plane. You have to get really good at drawing a coordinate plane. I could actually print one out for you, but the whole point of geometry is get good at drawing things and moving spaces around. And some people notice that I do a pretty neat job of these, even though I make them very quickly. And I would say that's because I've probably done this close to 250,000 times. So A is 1, 2, 1, 2. Always draw a map. Always print out your points. 7, -4 is B. And if we draw a good enough graph, we can almost eyeball it and say it's right about here. Looks like 4, -1. But we don't know that. So here's what you do. You label them. And then your midpoint is x1 plus, that's an x, x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we get 1 plus 7 over 2, comma. This is just a coordinate point, so the comma doesn't get, we're not adding, we're not subtracting, we're not multiplying. Two separate things going on here. This is one thing, this is another thing. And the second one is 2 plus -4 over 2. M equals 8 over 2, comma, -2 over 2 equals, I'm going to put an arrow. M is 4, comma, -1. And that's what we got, just from drawing a good picture. Drawing a picture takes time, but if it helps you solve the problem correctly, it's not a bad idea. At this point, if I were you, I would do all of that again and start from scratch. Draw a new coordinate plane and see where it takes you. I'm not going to talk when I do it. I'm just going to blow through it very quickly. So go stop the recording and give it a shot. And now I will do it. It looks like halfway. We'll see. M -2 plus 5 over 2. And I'm going to do this one all the way down. That's 3 over 2, which is just 1.5. Could have left as 3.2. And this one is 3 plus -1. over 2. I should have labeled these. Always label, make your life as easy as possible. That gives me 2 over 2, gives me 1. That looks pretty good. We got 1.5 comma 1. That's it. These can be a little confusing, but they're really not that bad. Just follow the steps, you'll be fine. Good luck.